Okay, quiz 8 was very good. The class average was an 8.5 out of 10. It was on chapters 22 and 23, and then our supplemental readings. And these chapters were over war and terrorism, and then the parental deployment cycle. And these are super interesting concepts that a lot of people don't put into, especially the parental deployment cycle. Many people don't consider that to be a crisis event. But each parental deployment is like a little mini crisis for that family, and especially for those kids. Overall scores on this quiz ranged from a 5.5 to a 10, with the majority of scores falling at a 10. 4 people got a 10, 2 people got a 9, 3 people got an 8 out of 10. So people were doing pretty good on this quiz. Like I said, there are a couple questions that through a few people, and we'll talk about those now. So, question 1. A parent's deployment always translates into behavioral and or academic problems for a child. So, if you haven't learned this already, be super, super wary about any statement that has always or never in it. They're almost always not true. So the correct answer for this is false. Some students, their parents go on deployment and it does not translate into behavioral or academic problems. It doesn't have to, but it can be a stressor that can cause those types of problems for a child. That is in one of the supplemental readings. Question 2 says, list the 5 major stages of deployment. This one was a little tricky because our textbook talks about 4, 1, 2, 3 levels of deployment. But I was not looking for that. I was specifically said 5 major stages, and those were from our supplemental articles. And they you could have named them one of 2 things. Pre-deployment is a definite. Pre-deployment is stage 1. Deployment is stage 2. And then depending on which of the articles you looked at, I would have taken rest and relaxation, reunion, and reintegration as the next 3, or one of the other articles had sustainment, and then rest and relaxation, and then reunion and integration together. Any one of those would be fine. For the test, know what what sustainment is, because it's just in one of the articles, but know what it is referring to. But I accepted both of those as correct. And everyone got that question correct as well, so good job. Question 3, some deployments occur before reintegration is complete from the previous deployment. And this is sad, but it is true. So sometimes before parents have been put back with their families and before they're able to get back into the flow of things, sometimes they're sent away again. And so sometimes the cycle does not complete before it starts again, and that can be especially hard for children. Question 4, what can schools do to help military families? And I really liked that article where it talked about what schools can do. But it was a really short, very practical article by Dr. Mark Pisano. But you can develop a welcome packet for if you have a high percentage of military students who are moving in and out often. You can have a welcome packet for them to tell them what is in your area, what your school offers, things like that. You can establish a buddy program. Often military kids are very transient, and so they may be moving schools a lot. So if you have a buddy program, then it normalizes having someone to take them around. And then promote student participation in extracurricular activities. 1, this gets the student's mind off of that parent who's deployed. It helps them integrate themselves into the community, and it helps them find a support system through their peers. So all of the above are ways that schools can help military families and help those children find a place within their community, especially while their parents are on deployment. Question 5. The extent to which adults have traumatic responses to the stimuli associated with war and terrorism is linked to children's reactions. This is true, and this is not the first time we've talked about this. Earlier in the semester, we talked about how how adults react to crisis or crises can affect how children react, especially as children are younger. So the child that sees their mom scream because of lightning is likely to develop a fear of lightning. For this one, think about like 9/11. I was in the 3rd grade when 9/11 happened, and I was not at a developmental level where I understood what was going on. However, I did see my mom crying, and my mom was very upset. And so from her reaction, I knew that this was a bad thing and that I should be upset. Question 6. Children ages 7 to 12 are typically not as aware of the danger and consequences of war and terrorism. This is not true. Let's see if I can get to the right page where we talk about developmental issues. Children have, you need to be aware. And so children at the developmental stage of 7 to 12-year-olds, that middle childhood, they are aware of the dangers related to war and terrorism. Early childhood, 3 to 7, are not. That 7 to 12 group, they are, and so are adolescents. And so you have that awareness, and that changes how you interact with those students. Once again, the entire class got that question right, so very good job. Question 7. Suggested community-based interventions for war and terrorism include all of the following except. And this one is a common sense question. But those community-based interventions are on page, they start on page 445 and they continue on for a few pages. But if you just read the options, do we want to promote a sense of self-efficacy? Do we want to promote that sense that people are efficacious and that they can do the things that they set out to do? You bet we do. We want that. Do we want to promote connectedness between people and within the community? Yes. Do we want to promote hope in the face of war and terror? That there is going to be an end, that there's going to be a good outcome? Do we want to promote fear? That the next IED bomb could blow us all up, or that it's never going to end? No, we do not want to promote fear. Question 8. A child has to directly witness the terrorism attack in order to display symptoms associated with crises. False. Once again, think back to in the United States recent history, we had 9/11 and 01. A very small percentage of people actually, especially students, directly experienced that terrorism attack. However, a lot of students had parents or family members or people that they knew who were in the towers, or they lived in New York City, or they were very closely involved in that, and they had symptoms associated with crisis as well. Especially as media is more involved, it really changes the way that children interact with those terrorism attacks. Now, given if you do actually witness that, your symptoms are probably or likely to be higher and more severe. But you do not have to be there to directly witness it to have that sense of security and safety in your country taken away from you. And then finally, question 9, fully define one of the 5 deployment stages and explain how a child may present in that stage. I'm not going to go over this question directly. We've already talked about those 5 deployment stages, and I'm going to leave it to you to look up how a child may react in those situations in each of those stages. If I were you, I would be able to match those. So match a description of a child's behavior to which stage of the deployment cycle that their parent is probably in. And that would be my advice for that section. I'm trying to keep these videos short and sweet. I know I was late getting them up, so I'm trying to give you less to listen to. Once again, if you have questions, let me know.